What up and welcome to Rama Screen YouTube channel, and here's my review of Netflix new documentary feature, How to Rob a Bank. Let's rock this. Wow, brace yourself for what I think is one of the best, most awesome Netflix true crime documentaries of the year. And the title is kind of funny in a misleading slash clickbaity kind of a way, because some people might be like, wait, I thought this docu was gonna teach me the play-by-play guidebook on how to literally rob a bank. And besides, even if this docu shows, which it actually does, how the subject matter Scott Scurlock robbed those banks, it's not really the underlying theme at all. Plus, you can no longer apply those same techniques from 30 years ago, because the bank securities and the law enforcement now have significantly grown better since then. Anyway, part of what makes this docu extra appealing, besides the fact that it's well put together, is that the late Scott Scurlock himself, whose eccentric personality and his carefree attitude just draws you in like a magnet. This was a guy who lived life on his own terms. Yes, he was a criminal, and yes, we shouldn't glorify his crimes, but there's something about his outlook on life before he went off the rails that kind of made him charismatic. And all of that is superbly highlighted in this docu, which oozes cool around every corner. Directed by Stephen Robert Morse and Seth Porges in How to Rob a Bank. It's 1990 Seattle, and the world's best bank robber has it all. Looks, charm, a sprawling treehouse hideout, and an uncanny ability to disappear using Hollywood-style makeup. But as law enforcement inches closer, his once carefree life spirals into a suffocating trap, forcing him and his crew to risk it all in one final heist. Hey, please click the join button below to become Rama Screen members. By doing so, you will help support this channel, and you'll also get lots of perks. So click on the link below to join Rama Screen membership today. Now, if you don't know who this criminal nicknamed Hollywood was, don't worry. It just means you are Gen Zs. But for those of us who lived through the 90s, you may have remembered hearing about what he did on the news, and this docu did a fine job of collecting those archival footage by also combining them with the hustling, bustling backdrop of Seattle during that era. With every great true crime documentaries, there's a cat and mouse juxtaposition between what the criminal does and what the cop does, and you get that here as well. And it gives a broad range of their state of mind from both sides, but what really stands out the most over everything else is the filmmaker's decision to add rotoscoping pencil sketch animation on top of the already well-executed reenactments. Now, one might argue, well, that's a bit of an overkill, and one might have a good point for saying that. And maybe the filmmakers were doing that in order to save budget because they didn't have the resources nor the time to recreate every waking moment. But you know what? The animation looks hella exciting. And the transition between the live action to the animation going back and forth is smooth and seamless. And so kudos to the guys behind that, because it effectively puts us, the audiences, in the middle of some of that suspense, including the shootouts. It all kind of reminds me of YouTuber Ray William Johnson's style of storytelling, which I am a big fan of. Every facet of Scott Scurlock's life is just begging to be turned into a narrative movie. I mean, why did it take so long for a documentary to be made about Scott Scurlock? Well, here I'm wondering, why hasn't Hollywood made a full-blown movie yet about Scott Scurlock? This Billy the Kid type treehouse man who's inspired by such films as Point Break and Heat, and he robs several banks with his friends and then gets greedy and then goes on a downward mental slope. The whole thing is like something that jumps out of a screenwriter's laptop. And lastly, I just want to say it's a shame that some people just don't know when to walk away. I mean, man, there was a long period of time when the cops couldn't catch Scott Scurlock. They didn't know who he was. They didn't know where he was hiding. He could have chosen to run off with the money into the sunset and retire. He could have lived the rest of his life as an urban legend like D.P. Cooper. But nope, his greed and paranoia kicked in, and you know how it is. Whenever a criminal says one last job, turns out it really means one last job, especially in this case. Again, I'm not condoning nor glorifying what Scott did, but what I'm getting at is you gotta know when to walk. You know what I mean? So yeah, overall I give How to Rob a Bank the rating of 4.5 out of 5. A riveting documentary with excellent visual framework, featuring a mythology of a man at the center of it all. It speaks to the outlaw and the rebel in all of us, and it emphasizes the danger that comes with embodying such fantasies.